also Captain Phasma in Star Wars. Where are all my Star Wars people at, man? Come on. Listen, you may know her from Wednesday, Tim Burton, but you will know her as Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. So make some noise for the one and only Gwendoline and Christie! Welcome, Gwendoline.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm so well, and I have to say, it has been extraordinary to be here today. The energy is incredible, people have been so positive and kind. I'm really enjoying it.
That's so nice to hear. I love that. Your energy is amazing too. We had a nice little convo backstage. And before we dive into your extensive career, you were born in England. Can you tell us a little something about early life?
I mean, it was so long ago. It was so long ago. I mean, I was always really passionate about film. From a really super early age, I loved film, I loved cinema, and I loved television as well. But for me, it was all about stories, and I was a really keen reader, and I loved reading, but I just loved performance, the idea of performance, the idea of becoming a character very fully. And very early on, I looked at different actors and read as much as I could about different acting techniques and styles. From really early on, I remember reading about the method with regards to Marlon Brando and Marilyn Monroe. And so that sparked my interest, because what I was seeing in their performances was a kind of reality that reached out of the screen and took the viewer by the hand.
Wow, that's amazing. The way you worded that is beautiful. So, rumor has it that you started out as a model and kind of like got into acting by accident. However, you are a very trained stage actress. You have a lot of experience, and you just told us you were reading about a lot of acting methods. So, can you enlighten us about what really went down and how you became an actress?
It's sort of funny, you know, I didn't actually start professional modeling until I was 34. So I did bits and pieces, but I was certainly never a model. I was always, always told that I couldn't be one. But that wasn't really a major problem, because I wanted to be an actor, because I wanted to have the experience of something close to some kind of soul connection. I knew from a really early age that I didn't know much, but I wanted to communicate something about what it is to be human.
Could you verbalize what that something is? Or?
I think just being human is such an incredible experience. So coming to an event like this is really fascinating to me, because you meet so many different people. And it is, for me, this feels like a safe space, and I think lots of other people have said that today too. And we're all here because we're united in our love for something, whether it's one of the shows, or a character, or an actor, or whatever it may be. We are united in that way, and it's a really positive experience. And I just think what we can often lose sight of in our world is that we are all having a human experience. And actually, there is more to unite us than divide us, if we just really look for the connections.
I love that. Can we get a round of applause for that answer right there? It's true. So, you are a part of some of the biggest franchises around. Not only Game of Thrones, but also Star Wars. Is there something that attracts you to sci-fi, or did that happen by chance? And do you yourself love to watch sci-fi, or can you say something about that? Or?
It's funny, it's not something I ever set out to do. I look for characters. And for me, Brienne of Tarth was fascinating because this was a fascinating woman. And the kind of woman I hadn't really seen on television before, you know? I felt like I hadn't seen a fighter, a woman who was a fighter, who wanted to be a knight because of what a knight means in terms of chivalry and dedication to a cause greater than oneself. But a woman with an intense and very alive vulnerability. So that character was just captivating to me. And then I read the books, and I thought the books were brilliant. And for me, it's always the projects that go beyond. You know, I love genre, but I particularly love those that go beyond. Star Wars, I've loved since I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow. Wow, yeah.
You know, and there's something about Star Wars that just feels like home.
It does.
About home. It's about being a misfit, going on a journey, good against evil, and ultimately, whenever I see it, I feel like I've come home.
I totally love that as well. And your character, Captain Phasma, I wanted to say there's some elusive power that you almost convey on screen. How do you prepare for a role like that? I wanted to be in Star Wars no matter what. I love JJ's work, I love Super 8, I love everything Kathleen Kennedy's done, and I'm obviously a huge fan of George Lucas. Because George somehow was able to see this world that was amazing visually, fascinating characters who were flawed and dynamic, full of action, but very charismatic, always, and funny. I love the funniness of it. But somehow he takes all of those elements, the great visual, the sci-fi, and he gives you something close to, what is it? Is it almost a spiritual experience? It is.
It's sort of what it is. It's transcendent, but it doesn't dictate to you. It's about you. It's about connecting, and that's what I think the Force is.
That's very well worded once again. And Captain Phasma, I thought it was an amazing character. You guys like Captain Phasma?
I love Captain Phasma. I really did, because I just wanted to be in Star Wars, but when I was told what the character was, that JJ wanted me to play, and I was shown the costume, it just triggered my imagination in a way in which not many things have done. The idea of this woman being powerful, being malevolent, having real violence, and an all-encompassing focus to get whatever she wanted, a ruthlessness and a real violence about her personality, the absence of any kind of mothering instinct, or, you know, of traditionally what we know from female characters being nurturing, and the mystery, it just spoke to me. It was also to me about lifting out of gender stereotypes. That felt significant. The idea that there is more.
Well, that's the thing. When I saw you on screen, you know, that character has, I said, an elusive power, but it's also a palpable sense of force, not the force, but just strength. Is that correct? Like,
yes, and that's what it's what it inspired in me, and it's what I felt was necessary. And I just feel with that character, there is more to say. It feels like there is more to say. And it feels like the kind of investigation, a journey that people want to go on to see what kind of woman that could be. And what was incredible about Captain Phasma was so many different kinds of people love the character. You know, kids love the character, men, women, however anyone wants to identify. Lots of people from all different demographics really connected to that character, because there was something there. When you get those characters, it's kind of inimitable, particularly when they don't necessarily have a colossal amount of screen time, but somehow they just capture you.
Definitely true. And I had the 18-inch figure of Captain Phasma, but it got destroyed in a flood, so I don't have it.
We've got to get you another one.
I have to get
out there has an 18-inch figure of Captain Phasma. Can you bring it to brain immediately, please?
Thank you, Gwendoline.
There's got to be a
Wonderful,
Gwendoline out
yeah.
there somewhere. Come on.
Let me know. Vamos a ver, okay? Dank een applaus nog een keer voor Gwendoline. ASAP. Okay, speaking of characters, we gotta dive into Brienne of Tarth a bit. Yeah, Game of Thrones fans in the building. So yeah, I personally feel there's a unique, elegant power about you in the way you portray that character, and you convey a lot of different emotions, and it's just like, I mean, that role was written for you almost. Do you sense the same thing, or?
The second I was told about the character, I remember I Googled the character, and this is in the early days of the internet. But I read about the character, and it was like a lightning bolt. It was sort of like time stood still, and I thought, I remember at drama school they said, if you are very, very lucky, maybe one day there'll be a character that comes along and you don't need to do any work. It's all there, it opens up to you. And that's how that character felt to me. It felt like a character I'd never seen on television before, but also I was being given the opportunity to say so much, to have such a large story. And it spoke to me about feeling isolated from society, about feeling at that time like as a woman that didn't necessarily conventionally have a place. You know, we live in a different world now, and I'm really grateful for that. Things are changing, we have to keep encouraging them to change, for people to be open and inclusive of each other, you know, make it a warm and welcoming space. But then the mainstream media was very narrow, and it was all of the complexities, the challenge of the fighting, which I've never done before, but having to face up to so many things about myself, my androgyny, my height, my strength, my own, unconventionalness in terms of how I look, the inconsistencies in my face and my body. And even now, it's hard to admit to that shame, but we have to go through that process as artists, because very hopefully, maybe just one person, it will change their minds.
Wonderful, come on, this is amazing. I totally agree with you. Couldn't agree more. As artists, actors, musicians, you run into so many nonsense things and just prejudice, and you change conventions by just who you are, which is phenomenal. I love that. And I think for everybody out there, you just gotta really be yourself. It sounds basic and easy, but it's not.
It's so hard. It's so hard to do, isn't it? And maybe it's just me.
But did that role? You can almost say, okay, let me state it this way. It's more than it just clicked. It was like an organic way of finding a character, because you said like it was I
worked very, very hard. Before the audition, I worked for months with a good friend of mine who's an extremely successful makeup artist now, actually. But she was very physical, and she said, I'll train you. And she trained me. Ismail French, she trained me, and she got me doing all sorts of kind of nasty stuff outside. So I'd get down on the floor and give me 50 press-ups now, and I'd be like, are you for real? And she's like, do it! And I did kickboxing. I had long hair then, and I never wanted to cut my hair. I love my hair, but I took my hair away. I always wore makeup. I never walked around without any makeup on. I took the makeup off. I dressed in a very androgynous way. I just wore, just sportswear that was very, very plain. And I looked at the way I walked. I started to change the way I walked. I changed my voice. I worked hard to change my breathing. I lost a lot of weight. I put it back on in muscle. I had a whole eating plan. I was lifting heavy weights. It was for me, it was a massive transformation. I read all the books, as much as I could about Brienne of Tarth, and it was really I read about knights and chivalry, and try to connect to a feeling, like an essence of why someone would want to be chivalrous, why someone would want to dedicate themselves in service of something greater than themselves. And I realized that it was a combination of deep pain about not being accepted and also overcoming one's ego, doing the best to overcome one's ego. And it was such an enriching experience, and I loved the dumb people I worked with. I could see brilliant C.C. Smith. I loved my fellow actors. I had such great actors to work with. They taught me so much because I'd never done television before. That was the first experience I had. I remember when they said, okay, turn over, and I thought, what does that mean? And what that means is get ready because we're about to start filming. It was just so enriching, and I felt so galvanized. It was a lot of hard work. I mean, it was hard. There was a lot of physical pain.
I totally hear you. So even though the role felt great and organic, the work was very hard.
It's really tough, you know, and also you can never stop working. I never stopped working until we finished, and I can proudly say that. I kept working. You know, the brilliant Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who played Jamie Lannister. Woo! He worked so hard. You know, he worked really, really hard. And we worked hard to build that relationship so that we had a good foundation, and he took care of me. You know, he was a real gentleman and really did his best to make sure that I was looked after, because I didn't really know what I was doing. And we did so much work because it was important to us to try and make that relationship on screen come alive. And it was great to be able to do that and then go home, you know? To be able to put it all into that.
Fulfilling.
Yeah, really fulfilling.
Amazing. Lucifer and the Sandman, Captain Phasma, Brienne of Tarth. Is there, inquiring minds want to know, do you have a favorite role out of all these franchises, or is that hard to say?
I think there's three, and I think that one is Captain Phasma, because it feels like there's still so much to say, and it's a character that's made such an impact on the world, and made a big impact on me in terms of having to examine my own darkness, which is something I've been able to do with Lucifer as well. But something about Captain Phasma, the challenge of a woman choosing the hardness of that exterior and the hardness of her profession, it just feels like there's a lot more to say there. Brienne of Tarth will always be so close to my heart. And I will genuinely always be so grateful that ever happened. Not only has it changed my life, but it changed me. And it allowed me to start to come to terms with many things about myself. And it was, you know, really phenomenal. Because I've loved James' work since I was really young. I thought maybe I was 6, maybe I was 8, I'm not sure, but I watched Pee-wee, so that was the first thing that made such an impact on me, and then I watched every single thing that he did. I got to the cinema to see it for the first time, and he was someone that I remember watching those films and thinking, I'm not alone. It's possible to feel the way I do, which is so outside, because other people do too, and maybe there is a home for me. And also, you know, I'm possibly a bit of a secret goth, but we won't talk about that.
Don't go public with that,
but the aesthetic, you know, the way that there's this sumptuous fantasy world, and he's a master craftsman.
You have a favorite Tim Burton film? Or?
I love Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. Sleepy Hollow.
I love Sleepy Hollow.
The Corpse Bride.
Oh, I love The Corpse Bride. I obviously love Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
And I think we might be getting a Beetlejuice too. Woo!
Hey, you heard it first.
I really loved Batman. I remember when that came out, and I thought, I was young, and I thought, what is this? Because, you know, these superhero movies then have been kind of dumbed down a bit, but we got something that was luscious, very dark and inspiring, but also there's incredible performances like Jack Nicholson. I mean, it was really off the chain. I adored it. So in short, the one I really, really love is Edward, because it's just so human, you know?
Yeah.
So,
it's a classic.
Yeah, there's always an elegance about the filmmaking and a masterful handling of the direction of the filming that is, it's legendary. It's innately iconic, and I know it's an overused word, but
actually it is. Just the way the use of color, the cinematography, everything.
And he's endlessly inspiring. I do have to say, Tim gave me a huge amount of confidence, and from working with him, not only do I feel incredibly fortunate and grateful, but I do feel excited to go forth and do so many other things, and that's the confidence that he's given me, really, has helped to give me.
Great, thanks. Wednesday, if you don't know the names, check it out when you are doing. So I think we should move slowly but surely into the Q&A with the audience. So we got the microphone right there. If anybody has a question for Gwendoline, Christie, you can walk up to the mic right now. No selfies, no autographs, just wonderful questions. And if you can't speak English, I will help you.